Hey there, this is Troy Baker, and this is a piece of Schmidt.
Spoilers. How did you feel when... First of all, it was cool being in the theater when, like, in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago, right?
Oh, yeah.
And everyone started cheering and stuff like that. Was it like that when in Phantom Menace?
It was like that in Phantom Menace. Just for history, for anybody watching, I went to the midnight showing for Phantom Menace. I stayed out. I camped out to get tickets. Bought like 5 showings worth.
Because there was no online tickets back then.
That's true. So yeah,
That
now
was
it's
like
just much
99,
like,
right?
really? I'm not going to camp, just fandango.
Yeah.
So yeah, I bought all these things. I was like, all right, it's going to be awesome. I bought like all the toys that they had released and everything. Bought the soundtrack album, which had the Qui-Gon Jinn death spoiler on the back. So yeah,
like before it even came out.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
But no, it's like I was like really excited, because I hadn't, the last time I'd seen a Star Wars movie at that point, like I was 12 that year, in '83 for Return of the Jedi, and that was the one thing that I wanted for my birthday was to go see Return of the Jedi. So I got to go early because they're like, well,
nice.
It's out in May, so. Yeah, so we got in the theater. I remember, like, the lights go down, 20th Century Fox logo, Lucasfilm, all that. And a long time ago, Galaxy, that all pops up. Everything is just like you would expect a Star Wars film.
And everyone cheers.
Everybody cheered. Everybody's like, yeah, people were dressed up. And then, but by the end of the movie, like, you know what? It was kind of like, it's like somebody just came on and like told you that your favorite family member was dead. Like, people were just so like depressed on that. Like, there was not really. I think the little kids that went and saw it were excited.
They loved it.
Well, yeah, and but I was just like, oh my god, that's like hot. Like the first.
It's not Star Wars.
Right. Well, when I first walked out, I was like, what did I see? Like, I couldn't process that.
Right.
And I really thought, like, okay, it's a midnight showing. Maybe I didn't get enough sleep. I wasn't.
Maybe it's wrong. Maybe something's wrong.
Maybe
with
it's
me.
me. Yeah, something's wrong with me. Nope.
No.
And then I'm like, the second showing was actually during the day. I actually had plenty of sleep. I'd gone in. I'd eaten, so I mean, there was like no distractions. And by the time I was in, I'm like, oh my god, I've got 3 more showings. I got to sit in this. Like,
You already bought tickets.
Yeah, I already bought the tickets. So then, fast forward all these years later to The Force Awakens. I bought 1 ticket. Well, 2 tickets for me and my wife, but just for the one show.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, all right, I've been there.
What if it's
like,
bad?
And I will say, it's just like we've talked about it before. It's just like that scene in Fanboys where Seth Rogen's character's like, Jar Jar Binks, he's gonna be the shit.
He's gonna be the shit.
And I'm just like, oh no, not again.
Yeah.
So when I went in there, well, the first teaser trailer that came out for it didn't really grab me.
For Star Wars?
Yeah.
Because it was the one where it's desert and then John Boyega, like,
Yeah.
That one, right? And at the same, I had the same reaction where I was like, okay.
Which, on a side note, as I was watching that, I found it absolutely amazing that the vast majority of the teasers that we got was all shit from the beginning.
Yes.
Like, they gave us nothing from later in.
Exactly.
The only thing that we got to see that was later in was the attack on Maz Kanata, I think is the character's name, on her place, on the green planet, whatever that planet's called. But like, other than that, like, it was all stuff that we saw in the beginning of the film.
Yep, and it was exciting, and the trailers were amazing.
Yes.
And they didn't spoil the movie. Like, they had every right, just like George Lucas did, to ruin the movies, right? Like, when Disney announces that they bought Lucasfilms and they're going to make the anthology and the new trilogy, it's like, the first thing you are like, it's Disney, first thing you think is they're going to drive this shit into the ground, right? This is going to be...
But that's what we all thought with Marvel.
Exactly.
So.
They're being so smart with it. And they are kind of it's everywhere, right? There's Disney. Toilet paper, or there's Star Wars. Toilet paper, there's Star Wars.
There's grapes.
Everything.
Yeah, grapes. Just a package of grapes.
Yeah.
Nothing special about them. It's not like growing on
Yeah.
Jakku or something like that.
I mean, I have Boba Fett.
It's got Yoda on it, so
the coffee mate. I have Boba Fett coffee mate.
Yeah.
You know, like, anyways. So, what I wanted to say was, in Phantom Menace, like the first time you see that and this credits roll, everyone's like, you get this big crowd reaction to it, right? And then it starts to do the scroll.
Yeah.
And in Phantom Menace, you get like this trade embargo and and that's got to be the first time where you're sitting in the theater, and you're just like, huh.
Well,
okay.
I will admit that when I saw that, I'm like, okay, because George Lucas said we're going to do the prequels, and this is going to cover the rise and fall of Anakin Skywalker, which dovetails with the end of the Republic and the rise of the Empire. So I'm like, okay, so I'm expecting to see some, Senate stuff. I wasn't expecting it to be like the whole entire thing.
Racist, like politicians, like those Chinese aliens.
I hate throwing the racist card around, because I think it gets overused.
Sure.
But just,
I mean, they were over the top.
Like you had the Nemoidians.
Yeah.
Okay, that talked with like they sounded like badly dubbed kung fu movies.
Kung fu movie, exactly.
And it's like, really?
Mm-hmm.
I had to double check to make sure Ben Burt was working on that film. because like the Jawas, I believe the Jawas speak like, I could be completely wrong, but I think it's either the Jawas or like the Ewoks, they speak Swahili is basically what it is.
Oh, okay.
So like when that got released into their country, like apparently they got excited that these things were speaking their language or something. That's something I read. I don't know how true that is, but they took like real world languages and sounds and mixed them and made them sound familiar, but at the same time alien.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, then you get Jar Jar and then the Nemoidians, and you're just like, are you even trying at this point? You know?
Yeah. So then flash forward to last night, Force Awakens. You get the big cheer, everyone's excited, and then you get Luke Skywalker has vanished.
Yes.
And instead of going, okay, where are you going with this? You go, fuck yes.
Right.
Like this is just so different. It's like shitting on the chest of the prequels. Like, fuck you. In the most subtle ways.
They have really stayed clear of the prequels.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
They even referenced him one time, too. I don't know if you caught it. When... I think it's... Somebody's talking to Kylo, and they're like, well, we need to get the clones back. And he's like, we don't need clones. We need real...
Oh, yeah.
We need real soldiers.
Right.
And I was like, oh...
But, and that was pretty cool.
But just from the scroll. It's just like fuck you, prequels, and this is going to be great.
They just basically took their gloves off when they did the gauntlet.
Luke Skywalker has vanished.
And it was like, okay.
So this is the spoiler cast. Luke Skywalker has gone.
Yeah.
Right?
He's completely out of it. Doesn't show up till the end. Says absolutely nothing.
He doesn't have to.
But the look on Mark Hamill's face is Luke Skywalker when she shows up with the lightsaber. Like, you just see this whole interplay of emotions.
Yep.
Like, he is... To me, it came across like he was just reliving like the original trilogy, like, all over, because that was his dad's lightsaber that was passed to him that he lost in the Cloud City duel.
I think that it's pretty obvious that she's his kid. Did you not get that?
They weren't really obvious about that, but that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I guess they weren't obvious about it, but like what I'm picking up is that they're obvious about it. So going into it, I thought that Rey was Kylo's sister, and they were both Han and Solo's kids.
That's what I kind of thought.
Han Solo and Leia's kids.
Like, that's my son. It's our son.
And they were very clear that the first big bomb dropped was that what's his name? Kylo Ren is Han Solo's and Leia's kid, right?
Right.
And that was like, oh shit, that's fucking awesome.
His name was Ben, if you didn't catch that.
I know, and that was awesome.
Which makes no sense to me.
Well,
now, I'm not saying that his name should have been Jason, because Jason and Jaina Solo.
Yeah.
But like I can see Luke naming his son Ben.
Yeah.
Because he has that connection to Kenobi.
Sure.
But like Leia and Han didn't really have that connection. I mean, I guess you could say Han had more of a connection, but I mean, he was really just like, you're just a crazy old man.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, sure. But if Ben wasn't there, like, growing old in the desert, and Luke doesn't find him, like, none of this gets happen. Like, Han doesn't meet Leia.
right.
You know? So, like, could have named him Luke or Ben. I get it, because he had an instrumental part in Han and Leia's story.
Right.
If there was no Ben, there really was no A New Hope. You know what I mean?
I really felt like that moment was because they said, okay, so when they said, okay, we're going to change the expanded universe to Legends.
Yeah.
And they said, you know, that those characters can make an appearance in future things. They just maybe might not be like the same time frame or the same character that you knew from the expanded universe. So I kind of feel like they were trying to bring the Solo twins and stuff into the movie.
Yeah.
But yet not actually be the Solo twins, which is good because I hated Jason.
Yeah.
Like, he was just, no.
I never read him. But so you were all up in the EU.
I was all up in the EU. I wasn't butthurt that they canceled it. I mean, look, here's the thing. To be honest, if you spend $4 billion to get this, are you really going to be beholden to like 30 years of stuff that came before it?
Yeah.
And it's not like there was a lot of good stuff in the expanded universe, but there was a lot of
not so good stuff. That's what I've heard.
So, you know,
I'm good with it.
If they want to reset it, fine. And I like the fact that Disney did name it Legends because it's giving it, and I feel, still giving it respect, because the way they positioned it was like it's legend. Like, people hear legends about people may not necessarily be true.
Yeah.
So these could technically be stories that people have heard about Luke, but maybe Luke didn't actually do that.
And that's the thing, is like that's how you get Rey and Luke talking about, like, you get Rey talking about Lucas. She's like, I thought that was a legend. Like,
right.
Like 30 years have passed or so. Like I don't know. Han Solo.
Yeah, it's about 30
like
years.
20, and now he's 50, 60, something like that. So
right.
Between 30 years, some people don't even know if it really happened or not. You know, like the Return of the Jedi and all that.
Which totally, I like they went in that direction.
Yeah, I think it's weird. Like, it's a small time though, time frame. Like, how do people not know?
Okay, well, let me just draw on a real world thing.
Yeah.
Because, like, not to get too political here, but like George W. Bush comes into the White House with a surplus in the budget, and within the first few years, he has dumped us into trillions of dollars of debt for this war.
Yeah. And
then now, just a few presidential, which isn't even a 30-year span, it's probably maybe half that. It's like you hear all the stuff that the war drums beating for going to war with Iraq, the same thing that we heard before, and now it's kind of like, do you not remember the first time we were banging that drum?
Okay.
So to me, it totally would be believable because, first of all, by the time Luke and Leia appear on the scene in A New Hope, the Jedi have already been practically wiped out. So, and there's supposed to be like a 20-year gap, give or take, between the end of Revenge of the Sith and the beginning of A New Hope. So, you figure in 20 years, no Jedi, which, and this is drawing on expanded universe sources, but according to expanded universe sources, even at the end of the Republic, even with that amount of Jedi around, there was still not enough of them, that even then they were kind of mythical. That the vast majority of the galaxy never saw
That's a good point.
a Jedi. So
I agree with you.
You know, so then you go into the original trilogy period where there's 2 Sith and 2 Jedi, and of course now there's 1, you know, in Luke. And so it totally makes sense that within that 30 years, especially if he disappears, because you got to figure there's got to be some news apparatus. People aren't doing this stuff in a vacuum.
Yeah.
So maybe like at the height of the Galactic Civil War, like Luke Skywalker, you know, wanted criminal, whatever, but he disappears and like he's not a part of that anymore. So, and maybe even he disappeared even before that to go do his Jedi Academy or whatever.
Right. So that's what they said in the movie, right? He goes to train, like, to start this Jedi Academy, which is super cool. And then Han and Leia's kid joins and then turns to the dark side, betrays Luke, and then the weird thing is that Luke just at that point goes, okay, I'm out, I'm just gonna vanish, like, I feel bad about it, right? I feel like there's something more that they're saving for the next movie.
Which I hope so, because this movie gave me more questions than answers.
It was a setup. So
definitely a setup.
So let's go back a little bit. This movie is almost beat for beat A New Hope. Like,
yeah,
droid goes from ship, crashes on desert island, has valuable information.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people go and get that information. Like, it's very, very A New Hope.
Yeah,
but
much. With some Empire Strikes Back thrown in.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is like it is A New Hope in spirit kind of throughout the whole thing, but then there's also like splashes of the other movies, and it all works so well. They balance the new and the old. Like, you get to see all the like revelations of the characters, like when Han and Chewie show up, when Leia shows up,
yep.
and when C-3PO shows up, and R2-D2, like.
Right.
The Millennium Falcon, it's all like, oh, you know, they all did it so well. Like the Millennium Falcon scene where they're like, can't we take that one? Ah, it's a piece of junk.
Right.
Okay, let's go for the piece of junk. And then it's the Millennium Falcon.
Yep.
You're just like, oh, yeah. Like that, it's just fucking awesome. Like, they did such a good job.
I totally agree. I think this movie is exactly what Disney needed to create.
Yes.
Because when George Lucas went into the prequels, he had an enormous amount of goodwill.
Yeah.
I mean, people were lining up ahead before even knowing whether that was any good or not.
Yeah.
Myself included.
Right.
So by the time the prequels are done, people are like, this is horrible. George Lucas should never make another Star Wars movie.
They were offensive.
Like, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say offensive.
They were so unfathomably bad. Like, they really are. You rewatched them, right?
I did. Here's the thing, though, that which when you watch them on their own is like, yeah, this is a horrible thing. Here's the thing, though. If you watch like The Phantom Menace and then Attack of the Clones, watch the entire Clone Wars cartoon series, and then finish off with Revenge of the Sith, it's a much better story. But that's something I've always felt has been the biggest problem with the prequels. When the original trilogy came out, there was no video games, there was no expanded universe.
Right.
There was no place else to sell those stories. So everything had to be in those films. So anything that you had beyond that was kind of more like the icing on the cake. So then, many years pass, we get the prequels. By this time, Lucas has this vast merchandising empire that includes books, comics, video games. Thank you. Sweet, the Batman mug. So he has all this stuff. So Lucas, give credit where credit's due, is a visionary.
Yeah.
And it was an interview where he talked about where people would not just watch a movie, that you would have like all these forms of entertainment that would tell the story. And so I think part of that is because like if you look at it, like all the Clone Wars, like not on screen, because the Clone Wars start at the end of Attack of the Clones, and they end at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. But yet that's a galaxy-changing event, but it's not given any screen time for it.
Yeah.
So I think he went into it going, well, we can tell the story in television shows and books and whatnot. But the problem is that the vast majority of people don't consume those extracurricular sources. So when you make these movies, you have to basically take the stance that everything has to be self-contained in those. You go see The Force Awakens, you need the story. You shouldn't have to go to like all these other sources to get it.
Yeah, and it's also like the Clone Wars TV show, no matter how good it is and people like say it is, I don't know that I'll watch it just because I'm just not a cartoon guy. And that's just my thing. Like, I don't watch anime. I don't really like Family Guy or The Simpsons. I just don't like cartoons, and I don't know why. Even like adult cartoons. So, yeah, I'm into Star Wars. Love Star Wars. We'll watch a Star Wars movie like as many as you throw at me.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's Star Wars TV show that's a cartoon. I don't know.
Right.
I wouldn't watch that. So the other thing though is like you hear references to the Clone Wars in A New Hope, I think it is.
Yeah.
And it had been like that for like 20 years of like, well, what are the Clone Wars, right? And so we finally got to see that, and then it kind of like it kind of ruined Jango and Boba. Like Boba Fett was supposed to be like this cool like rebel warrior, and then it's like, oh, you're just a clone of a dude.
Yeah, that was just like.
And then all the like you hear stormtroopers talking in the original trilogy, and like they're people, like they're chatting around and stuff like that, and it's like they're not clones. I know that they're not, but you're telling me like so. As much as the fans are like, what are the Clone Wars? And then we finally got to see a little bit of the Clone Wars. Like we really didn't want to see that, like it wasn't. The Clone Wars I think is better than Phantom Menace, but. They're all just not good movies. Like, so if they fix the story and I do watch it with the cartoon, well then I have the shitty acting, the shitty casting, and the CGI masturbation.
Yeah, that is true.
Like,
I mean, there's no way to get around that. So
yeah, that's the thing is that they're just not good. They're just not good movies. And the great thing about these new movies is that we don't have to bitch about the prequels anymore. Like, we have a new thing.
Yeah.
We have a new thing.
Well, the other thing, too, is that I think the big difference, too, is that in the original trilogy, there was people who were telling George Lucas, like, no, we're not doing that. That's stupid. Now,
Lawrence Kasdan, the guy who's on this
Lawrence
one.
Kasdan, Leigh Brackett, some of these other people that were just like Irving Kershner, like all were willing to stand up to George Lucas. And you get to the prequels and like nobody would. And the defining thing for me is, and I've talked about this before, but the defining thing for me is there's a documentary. I don't know what it's called.
The People versus.
No.
Oh no.
It was a documentary that was like on one of the prequel DVDs. There is a scene where he is describing something that is just fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And you see Rick McCallum and Ben Burt look at each other. And it is clear when you look in when you see the look on their faces, they know this is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And they just kind of look at each other like, "Are you gonna tell him? I'm not gonna tell him. You're gonna tell him? I'm not gonna tell him." And they didn't say anything. And it's like, come on.
Yeah.
So I lay the blame there at that feet too. To some degree, not as much as.
Yeah, there's a similar story about that with Crystal Skull that I've talked about on the podcast before, but it's Spielberg telling like how they came up with the idea for Crystal Skull, and they're like, well, originally we didn't want to do aliens, or like it was a different story, and then George came to work one day and he was like, we have to do aliens, and it's got to be this, hidden temple. I was watching Ancient Aliens or whatever, and it's like, you could see it on his face, and he was just like, and then, we did aliens, and it's like, oh God, Steve.
And that's somebody, like, come on. You're like Steven Spielberg.
Just
you have
say
as
no.
much power as Lucas. Come on, just no. Just be like no.
So I don't think that George Lucas even really gets Star Wars, and it's pretty clear by the prequels that he didn't understand why we liked Star Wars, and he created these characters, and I'll thank him forever. For
absolutely.
That. He created this universe. But even, like, Empire and Jedi, like, they have different directors, different writers. It's Lawrence Kasdan. It's these people who were like, it's okay, George. Like, we know why people like this, and we're going to continue to make it awesome.
Right.
And he, like, his recent interview, like, he saw it a couple weeks ago, and he was like, it's good. It's what all the Star Wars fans wanted. Like, he's a little bitter.
That's where I knew that we were probably in really good hands.
Exactly. When he was like, it's good.
But, no, like I said, with the prequels, here's the thing. It's like, George Lucas is good with coming up, like, with the skeleton of the thing.
Yeah.
So here's the basic idea. And then letting other people run with it and flesh that out.
He can't have control like the prequels anymore.
Yeah, no.
So I think his like son or something like said that he had regrets, and he was kind of feeling like he was sad that he let it go and whatnot, and then you get like that review.
Imagine.
Yeah, that we don't have to bitch about the prequels anymore. Then. We don't.
No.
Like,
I think
nothing about them holds any water. There's nothing that I need to talk about the prequels other than bitching about them. There's no story point that matters.
But I think that we'll always have some kind of, like... I don't think it'll ever truly be let go.
Sure, it's on
only
you.
Because the potential for that story, the potential...
Like if they redid
Okay, like, here's the thing. Like, in the prequels, even though it was telling the story of Anakin's rise and fall,
yeah,
there was nothing personal about those movies. It was just kind of this large thing that was just cut and paste everything in there. And yet with The Force Awakens, despite having this backdrop of like spaceships and aliens, they still brought it down to a human level.
I love Rey.
And
I love
if they had done that, and that's the thing, if they had done that with the Anakin, then that would have been so much better.
Yep.
And that's the thing, being a Vader fan, that's always going to stick in my craw. But it could have totally been so much better. And we did not need little kid Anakin.
No.
Like
Start out in the teen years.
Yeah, the closest analog, Earth-wise, that could come was Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you talk about like what happened in Nazi Germany, nobody talks about Hitler when he was 5.
Right.
And for good reason.
Doesn't,
like at 5,
it
doesn't matter. Like whatever he was doing.
And then, like, not only does it not matter, but you throw in stupid plot holes. Like, we're only going to go back and we're going to save this one slave, but, you know, that's it. And, like, we'll go, you know, oh, yeah, my mom's probably dying. I should probably go save her, like, out of nowhere.
Yeah, and then, like, they're like, no, don't worry about it, Anakin.
It's okay.
Like, the Jedi were totally dicks.
Oh.
So.
It just,
R2 is a dick in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, okay, first of all, like, okay, so they get the piece of the map, and they put it into BB-8, which, thank God, did not turn into Jar Jar. So...
Remember the thumbs up?
Yeah. That was so awesome. But, like, he's got the piece, but they're like, it's missing the rest of the map.
Yeah.
And we got to figure out where it's at.
It's not complete.
And R2 is sitting over here, and he's been powered down in a low power state since Luke left.
Mm-hmm.
Which, why?
Yeah, I don't know.
That needs to be answered. Because, like...
What about... Is it Han dying that he's like, I'm awake now?
No. Like, Rey comes in. And then he comes awake when Rey comes in.
Rey wasn't there the first time?
Mm-mm.
When BB-8, like, pushes him?
Mm-mm. I don't
She
believe
wasn't
so.
there? Okay. I thought she was there. That makes sense then. So, like, somebody... So, she's got to be his kid. She has to be.
See, that's what I'm thinking. But I'm like, okay, really, R2?
I thought it was
had
Han
this
dying.
the entire time.
Yeah.
And you could have saved Han from dying if you just woke the fuck up and gave us the information.
Yeah.
Because they were in the base talking, we got to find Luke.
Yeah.
Like, at that point, like, you should be, oh, by the way...
Well, they were in the base trying to destroy it, though. Or were they trying to find Luke?
No, they... Okay, so...
Because there was
They
the
sent-
attack on the planet.
Yeah, they sent Poe,
Mm-hmm.
which... Love that character.
Fucking awesome.
I don't...
Almost killed him.
Okay, to be honest, there's not a character in this movie I don't like. No, wait, no. Let me roll that back. There is one I don't like. I don't know anything about her, but she's only seen briefly, and I'm only judging because it looks like one of the stupidest fucking things you could put into a Star Wars movie. They go into Maz Katana's bar, and there's the two, excuse me, the two that are like, let the Resistance know that the droid's here, let the First Order know the droid's here.
Yeah.
That one chick that was like, let the First
With
Order...
like the black triangle.
Yeah, she has like black
something.
latex fingers, condoms on her fingers, whatever that was about.
She bugged me.
Like, she just looks stupid. And
I
which is
didn't even
really
pay
weird
attention.
because it's like, if you really think about it, there is some incredibly stupid looking shit in Star Wars.
Sure.
So for that to stand out, it's just kind of like, really?
Sure. I'll have to watch it again. I didn't
Totally.
even notice.
Yeah, it's just...
I like her Maz
Her
or
eyes.
whatever.
Yeah.
No, like the girl, the lady whose bar it is with
Yeah,
like
Maz.
that's Maz, right?
Yeah.
She's got those little Coke bottle.
Yeah.
She's fucking awesome.
She kind of reminds me of like Edna from the Incredibles.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
But no, I'm glad that didn't disappoint either. That was a good character.
Yeah, she was good. And then you have her like Rey finding the getting the flashbacks by touching the lightsaber and stuff, and that was cool. She's just, that's what I mean. Like, she's obviously Luke's son. Like that. Those are like the obvious things. Is she has this force. You know, she can use the force. What I didn't even know she woke up R2-D2. Like, it's pretty. If you're right and she wasn't there the first time, like in that room somewhere.
I'm gonna go back and see it again. So, but I'm almost positive she wasn't in there initially.
It would have to
and
make
she didn't
sense.
show up until the end.
Yeah.
And that's when R2 was like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah.
And C-3PO pimp slapping R2, I thought was a little bit. Like, I mean, he's always kind of like.
Yeah.
Did it, but I mean, like, he full out like whack, like really.
Yeah.
Like
How good was that reveal though? Like, who? Like, he comes into the frame. It's like, oh, you probably don't recognize me because of my red arm.
Yeah.
And that's the red. It looks just like the red arm from Metal Gear Solid 5. I'm like, oh shit, C-3PO. Snake. It was so funny.
Yeah.
And he's like, Leia, did you see that Han Solo's back? It's like, oh, I'm in the way.
I gotta say that, like, so according to this movie, like, Leia and Han have kind of broken up.
Yeah.
Because of they've fallen away from each other because of
after Kylo
Ben falling to the dark side.
Yeah.
And becoming Kylo, or just falling to the dark side, eventually becoming Kylo, whatever that happens to be. And then he doesn't know how to handle it, so he just goes off and does
Luke?
smuggler Han Solo stuff.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Han Solo, yeah. Yeah,
and that's how he dealt with it.
Some sort of, yeah. Yep.
But total credit for Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher, because they made that relationship feel like a real relationship. And you can actually feel the weight of that 30 years.
Yeah.
You may not know anything that happened within that 30 years beyond the little bit they've kind of seeded out there. But, like, it feels like they've been through some shit. And so...
I think, like, credit to Harrison Ford. From the original trilogy, like, he's the only one with acting chops. Like, he went on... It did other stuff, like... Carrie Fisher did like a one-woman play or something like that.
She did
like
some other stuff, because she was in the Blues Brothers.
Little stuff.
She was in
Jane Silent Bob.
Jane Silent Bob, but she's also in like Over the Rainbow or something. It was like about. I remember, like, it was like, I think about making Wizard of Oz or something.
She's not known for her actor skills.
Right.
Same thing with Mark Hamill. Like, he does a lot of VO stuff, but he's not necessarily like the greatest. So I'm nervous to see if he can hold his own, like, as old man Luke. And I was nervous to see if Harrison Ford would be Harrison Ford or if he would be Han Solo. Because he can really sometimes phone it in and be Harrison Ford. And he's still a badass, he's still cool.
Right.
But it's not. He was Han Solo.
He was Han Solo, yeah.
He was fantastic. Like the pirate scene where there's the two monsters and the two people. Like, that was Han Solo in 15 minutes. Like, that's exactly
those monsters
who he is.
kind of bugged me, though.
Yeah, they were a little bit like, you're getting real close to cheese prequel stuff.
It was like...
It was alright, though.
It kind of felt more like Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah? I can see that.
It's like, okay. And I guess it's like you're trying to show... That's part of the thing that's always been cool about the Star Wars movies, is they pay attention to those little details, like the wildlife. Like, when she's driving past, and there's that vulture-like bird that's hammering away at the scrap. Yeah. Like, that's just something like most people wouldn't even think about. But, like, they populated with that kind of detail. And you're like, what? Yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, the monsters were... I don't know. They were a little... They didn't bother me. They could have bothered me if they became a bigger... If that scene took any longer, it would have been like, okay, these are kind of dumb. But, like, it was kind of perfect. Like, you got Finn, he was, like, in a little bit of trouble, and then Rey gets him out of it, and it's over, and it's done, and you never see him again. Like, okay, that was good. Okay, whatever.
I'll also give mad props in that scene where they're running. He's grabbing her hand. Like, that's the total That's the total thing you think to do. Like, you grab
Stop
a woman's
grabbing
hand,
my
let's go.
hand.
And she's like, stop, I can run, you know.
And then he gets knocked out.
Yes.
And wakes up. He's like, "Are you okay?" She's like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
You're not okay though.
Right. So I thought that was
she
like...
beats the shit out of him,
Yeah.
and he's like coming to save her, and then he stops halfway because she already kicked the shit out of him. He's like, "All right, I'm just gonna go."
Yes, which I totally liked.
And he was hilarious. He was so funny. And
He was.
like, I kind of want him and Ray to get together. Maybe they will and make some like milky white babies.
I want to say no.
And
it has nothing to do with race. It just has to do with, I really think, with the dynamic that they established, that would kind of cheapen it.
Sure. So do you want them
Or
to
maybe-
be like brother, sister, best friend, boyfriend, girlfriend?
Whatever they do with it is fine, provided they don't cheese it out.
Sure. Like
Okay.
make it a...
Han and Leia have set the bar for relationships in this movie.
And Anakin and Padme
Because,
drove it in the ground.
well, yeah, but you've got a shitty script. I mean,
I'm just kidding.
you got a shitty script, you got shitty directing. I mean, nobody's going to come out of that. So,
Yeah.
I don't even think the new stars would have been able to come out of that. And
Yeah.
they're really good. So, I'm really looking forward to other things that they do, for sure. But, like, here's the thing. It's like, because when you see Han and Leia, their relationship doesn't undermine Leia's authority at all.
Mhm.
She's still seen as, like, the general. You know?
Yeah.
Whereas most movies, it's like once it just seems like the females, they're doing her thing until she gets with the guy, and all of a sudden it just completely changes it.
Yeah.
And it's like...
Yeah, and that's a
No.
good point. And given what they've done with Rey so far, I don't see her doing that. And I see that as a big downfall for her character if she does fall in love and then become this
Yeah, it's going to be
damsel in
Padme with
distress.
the broken heart thing all over
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So...
That brings me to another good point, though, is Captain Phasma.
Okay, if there's one thing that just completely... Like, I don't want to say it made me mad to, like, some, like, prequel level
Yeah.
anger. But if disappointment. I'll say disappointment.
Underutilized?
Underutilized. Completely underutilized.
And the only time you see her with the characters is when they're, like, fucking punking her.
Yeah.
Like, she's just a fucking joke.
Yeah, and here's the thing. It's like, I was talking with my wife, who, like, took it to me that I didn't like the movie because I had a problem with this.
With
She
Phasma?
with the lack of Phasma.
Okay.
And she just wasn't getting it. And but
So
it's
she
like...
was like, you just don't like
She's
the
like,
movie.
well, yeah, that's what she thinks. But she's like, well, because they're just introducing her. They're just going to develop her. And that she
Which
said
is
that,
true.
Right, but she said that I was like overthinking it. But it's like, you know, like I went in with preconceived notions. But
She's
it's
gonna
like
be a big character.
that. But that's my point, and this is what I was trying to explain to her. Like, okay, General Hux was in that movie far more.
He doesn't
than
have an action
Phasma,
figure. I didn't see a big thing
and
at work.
well, he does have an action figure out, but.
Yeah,
But the thing
know what
is,
I mean.
you don't see him in any of the promotional materials.
Right.
Well, some you do, if they.
I
are
wasn't
showing anything.
familiar with him.
But
I just wasn't.
but like if you, it's like less than a percentage that you would find him on any of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What did you see on the packaging? Kylo Ren, Captain Phasma, Finn, Rey, Han Solo, Chewbacca. Those were the predominant.
Like, people were talking about Phasma. Nobody talked about Hux.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was his name. I really didn't.
Yeah,
But I knew Captain Phasma, and I was like, when she came up, I was like, oh yeah. Like, every time she came back onto screen, I was like, oh fuck yeah, we're gonna get some Phasma. And then it was like, no, you're just being made a fool of.
yeah.
This
It's
sucks.
like she's gonna be like this trilogy's Boba Fett, like 5 lines.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, except for, well,
She's gonna be.
they kind of
it's gonna
punked
piss me
Boba
off.
by throwing him into the...
Well, yeah. To George Lucas' credit, though, he said that if he knew that Boba Fett was that popular of a character, he would not have killed him, and definitely would have done it that way.
His dad kind of dies like a bitch, too, in the prequels. Like, he just kind of... He flies into that pit of where, like, they're fighting with all the Jedis and stuff like
Right.
that, and then, like, rolls out of the way of something, and... Of, like, a monster,
Yeah.
and then just gets owned in 3 seconds by a Jedi.
Actually, they had to go back when they released it on the DVD. They actually had to add some additional effects in there because it wasn't obvious in the theatrical release. Basically, what happens, he jumps down in there, the reek hits him and rolls over, damages his jetpack. So he goes to fly out, and there was sparks that were supposed to come off. They added to it so you could see the sparks.
Gotcha.
And so that probably was like, what the fuck? And then that's how he gets owned. So,
By
yes,
Mace.
it's a punk-ass death.
Mace Windu just cuts his
But
head right
it's
off.
not totally like they weren't paying attention.
It's not like you're flying something off,
But-
like flying off, and then someone bumps you, and you're just
Yeah, right. And but still, like, okay.
God, that's such a bad
But
such bad luck for Boba.
yeah, I mean, here's the thing for Jango Fett though, it's like this is the dude that they thought was so badass
They have to
that
clone
he
him.
was the template for the clone army. So
He just gets owned.
here's me. I'm like, this guy's badass enough. And if you look at the expanded universe stuff, like he stayed behind to train the clones.
Oh.
Right. So taking all this in, obviously with the disclaimer that yes, it's no longer canon anymore.
Yeah.
But even if you just take the movie, it's just like I don't see somebody who's like that badass of a fighter, that badass of a bounty hunter, not being able to react to split-second changes in the battlefield.
Right.
Like, I'm going to totally slow this down. But like, my jetpack's not working. I better fire a missile or, flamethrower, whatever.
I mean, it's not even an epic fight scene like with either of Boba or Jango's like last scenes is like Jango flies in there, shoots a monster in the face, rolls over, and then has like a 2-second confrontation with Mace Windu, and he just goes, "Oh, your head's off," right?
Well,
and then Boba Fett he barely fights, flies onto this little boat, and then
right.
they're so uneventful.
It's uneventful, but here's the thing: it's one of those things where it's implied power, but it's a lazy way to imply it.
Yep.
Like, okay, and what I mean by this is like in the original trilogy, in A New Hope, Vader comes in and just chokes the shit out of that officer and throws him away. Like, they are demonstrating by his actions that he is a powerful character. They're not inferring it, but it's like, in the prequels, they're like, so you're seeing Darth Vader be badass. Yeah. In the prequels, it's like, oh my god, Mace Windu's badass, and then, whoosh, and like, that's, you're just supposed to you go, yeah, he's badass, that's why he did it. Instead of showing Mace actually being badass. So,
which brings me to another cool point. The badassness of Kylo Ren in the first scene when he stops the bolt. Remember when he turns around?
Yeah.
Like that, and it stops? You don't think that's cool? I think that is so fucking cool.
No, and here's why. Okay, yes and no. Yes, it's an obviously cool visual and it just telegraphs like how powerful he is in the Force. Okay, but no at the same time, because it's like, what's a laser? It's light energy. How are you stopping that? Like, if you do some Neo shit where they're shooting a bullet and you stop the bullet, that's a physical object that you can interact with. Like, even Vader didn't stop laser bolts. He just, like, bounced them off his hand. So the only thing I can say is, like, okay, well, this is your Vader analog for this movie, and you don't want him doing the same shit as Vader, like, deflecting with his hand. I still would have been... That would have been more acceptable to me than this fucking laser bolt that's just hanging in the air.
I'm okay.
I can't say that I hated it though. It's not like when I saw
so
it.
You're just upset with it because of like the physics of it.
Yeah, it kind of breaks the physics of Star Wars a little bit. Because Vader's supposed to be like this badass Sith Lord, right?
Sure.
And Han shoots him, and he just like deflects it with his hand, and you're just like, okay, that's the Force or whatever he's using. Okay, but then this guy's like freezing a bolt in air. Well, and somehow it maintains its consistency to still be there, and the energy of it's not dissipating. If that makes any sense. I don't want to bring like real world physics into it, but
because it's
you have
not.
the Force,
but I think just because Darth Vader didn't do it doesn't mean he couldn't have done it.
well, now
He
they
obviously
established
could have
that's
done it.
possible in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I still think it's cool, and I think the weird thing about it though is like they talk about how Kylo like isn't fully trained, like he's not Darth Vader, and the big part of his storyline is that he's worried that he won't be able to live up to be a Darth Vader.
Right.
So like the fact that he isn't like completely trained, like, but you already have this ability to like freeze a bolt in the middle of the, like, I don't know, it's a little inconsistent because.
But he's got like Anakin's genetics, and Anakin, like the whole Skywalker family has like are powerful in the Force.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what it's visually trying to tell you. That even if he doesn't have like the training to necessarily focus it, he has
He's
the
not
raw
part of the
talent.
Skywalker family,
Yeah, Leia's his mom. Leia's Luke's
though. Oh,
sister.
right, gotcha. Okay. I think that that kind of helps with like the last fight too, though, with him and
Which I
him
had
and
issues with
Rey.
that too.
Yeah. He's injured. He keeps doing this thing where like he got shot or stabbed or something like that, and like he's bleeding. Like Kylo's hurt. He's
Right.
not fully trained. So he kind of gets owned by Rey. Like once she really harnesses the Force, you know, which doesn't really, because he's like, he is a Sith Lord, you know, like he's a.
But he's not a Sith Lord, 'cause there's no Sith.
Well,
According to J.J. Abrams, there's no Sith in this universe.
right. That's true.
Which, I mean, we don't know about Snoke, but...
Mm-hmm. We haven't even talked about that yet. So what are your problems with the final fight then?
Okay. So, overall, I love the final fight. Okay, first of all, how does Finn know how to use that lightsaber so well? It's not like there's lightsaber training. So he's not even Jedi. So.
At best, he would be able to use that little stormtrooper thing that he had to fight against.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
so maybe he has training with that. I don't know.
well, that would make sense, but
I
still,
agree.
He's a little too good with it.
Yep.
I don't feel like I feel like somebody who's like, if they have the training in like a claymore,
Mm-hmm.
a broadsword type thing,
Mm-hmm.
and you give them something like a katana, like they're not going to be total shit with it. But that's that weapon, even though it's still a sword,
Yeah.
it's designed to do something different than a broadsword is.
Right.
And so I feel like
I think
you wouldn't be quite as you wouldn't be quite as adept using a katana if
Yeah.
you've never been trained to that weapon.
He knew enough about swordplay to not get himself killed, right? Like he wasn't meant to, like, oh, I'm better at lightsaber fighting than Kylo Ren, or this stormtrooper guy with his little. What's the name of that? Is that in the EU? Like that
I
new
don't
lightsaber?
know what that is. It harkens back to the original McQuarrie designs for the stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Because in early design, they had like stormtroopers were carrying like riot shields, and they were carrying lightsaber type weapons. So I feel like that's a throwback to that.
Because it's got electricity coming out of it and everything. So.
But it's also a throwback to the prequels, because if you remember, the Magna Guards that were Grievous' personal guards, they had those electric
That's true.
shock staffs or whatever that the lightsabers can penetrate through. So
Yeah. So he knew enough about swordplay to not get himself killed. He's not supposed. He didn't beat either of the two people he sword fought with.
right.
He just didn't die. And I think, okay, I can live with that. You know enough about this that you're not getting killed. Where Rey does kind of get this, like, they hold that scene for a really long time. There's a couple scenes
They hold that scene way too long.
that I need to rewatch, because I was kind of like, I was into it because it was my first viewing, but I'm wondering at my second viewing I'll just be like, you know.
I don't think it's so long that you're going to be looking at your clock, because it's not going to be like a pod racing scene
That's
where
true.
you're just like, okay, I'm done.
But it did feel long. That one where they're holding it like this, and then she like
musters the force, and I'm like,
don't really explain what happens
that's
there.
Jedi level.
Yeah. And the other one is when Kylo is reading her mind, and they do this, and then cut to her, and then do this, and then cut to her, and then cut to him, and then cut to this, and it was like, this is taking a really long time. Like get to what you need to get out of it.
Well, the big
That's
thing
just
about
how I
that
felt about it.
is that all that is taking place mentally.
Sure.
So you don't really have dialogue for that.
Yeah.
And so you've got to
he has
basically...
his mask off at that time, right? So you can see his face. So that...
Yeah. And Adam Driver is a phenomenal actor.
He is. He's
Still...
a doof. He looks like a doof. I think
a
when you...
bit, but you know what? It works in his favor, though.
So when I thought about it, it did. So it's just because I know him from that show Girls, just because of like little promos and stuff like that.
Honestly, I've watched Girls.
Yeah, I have too.
And he's really the only reason I kept watching. And it's not that the show's a bad show.
Yeah, it's just not my show.
It's obviously not aimed for us.
We're not the demographic.
So, but Adam
Girls.
Driver is the one that kept me coming back to watch. It's like I wanted to see his acting. And,
I'm not saying he's not a bad actor. He's a good actor. But his character in Girls was like this doofy, realistic, lanky, skinny, dude, and so like, and he had that long hair in Girls too, didn't he?
No, later, because he was actually filming the last season of Girls at the same time he was doing The Force Awakens, so he was going back and forth for that. So that's why, he had kind of longer hair. But in earlier seasons of Girls, his hair was a bit shorter. So
I knew he was Kylo Ren. I didn't think he was going to take his helmet off, but when he did, it was like, oh, you're kind of a doof-looking dude. You know, you're kind of like you're not badass, which nobody really is. Like even Darth Vader under that thing is like this burnt, shriveled, white, old, bald guy. You know, like
right.
He's not like a scary, like you put the mask on to kind of be scary, right?
Right.
And that lends itself to Kylo's story because he is like the opposite of Darth Vader. Like Darth Vader is a Jedi in his control of the Force and his control of his attitude and his thought process and how calculated he is.
Right.
And Kylo has these anger problems and freaks out and like loses his shit. And he's
Which
like
had a great scene in there where he's like just trashing the interrogation room.
board,
And those two stormtroopers come around and see that shit come out, and then they're just like, oh, we're gonna go back this way.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. Did you know okay, I gotta give props to how they handled the Jedi mind trick scene with the stormtrooper, who, by the way, it turns out is Daniel Craig, the guy who plays James Bond.
007?
Yeah.
He's in Star Wars?
He is. He's that stormtrooper that... Ooh. Daniel Craig.
Oh, no, I know, but what stormtrooper?
Okay, when she's sitting there and she tries to mind trick him and be all
when
like...
she's in the chair?
You're going to let me go and leave that open?
That's Daniel Craig?
Yeah, and he's all like, I'm just going to make that shit tighter. And then she's like, tries it again, and it's like, oh, yeah, okay, sure. And then, and you'll leave your weapon.
And I will leave my
weapon.
weapon.
I will leave my weapon. That's Daniel Craig,
How do you know that's Daniel Craig?
I just read about it today.
That's
well, there's
so
a rumor that
weird.
Daniel Craig was in there, but then he was saying that didn't happen. And Simon Pegg is
He's in it too, right?
But
Where
he's
is
in one
he?
of the aliens.
That's what I thought, yeah.
So, yeah, you don't actually see his
Well, that's really
face.
weird.
So, yeah, right?
It was a funny scene, though. A lot of
yeah.
in-your-face humor in this one. That it's a modern Star Wars movie, to say the least.
It is, but I don't really want a 1970s Star Wars movie.
No, that's what I'm saying.
So.
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's not like prequel comedy where...
Yeah, no one's stepping in
dog.
Well, alien.
And then,
alien
like,
crap or anything.
He's got, like, C-3PO's head is, like, being... He's like, oh, this is such a drag. And it's like...
Yeah. Right.
I
I will say, thank God there was, like, not much C-3PO. never been a big fan of that character.
Really?
Yeah, that character's just...
He had his little moment of, his 15 minutes of fame, and it was funny, and it was...
He did.
It was cool.
I think overall I enjoyed it. I think...
is there anything else we haven't talked about? Because I think we're...
let's talk
wrapping up
about
here.
Snoke.
Okay.
With that giant-ass hologram.
Which was cool. I liked it. It was... I think it was really cool.
Wow. That depends on whether he's actually that tall, or if it's just a hologram to tower over him.
I think it's a hologram tower. I'm hoping. If he's really that tall, it
Like a
doesn't make
Wizard
any
of
sense.
Oz kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm assuming that... Because that's what I was thinking, like, oh my god, this guy's huge. What the fuck is... Like, no one's... This just doesn't make any sense. And then he holograms out, and I'm like, oh, okay. They're superimposing him to be bigger than he actually is.
Right. Which kind of makes sense, because you see that in Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
With the full-face Emperor. But the... you know what? I kind of, wonder... I thought going into it that Snoke was going to be, the guy behind the scenes, and that maybe he was Plagueis, and Plagueis didn't actually die, and Palpatine just thought he killed him.
Because that's the guy...
Well, he doesn't come right out and say he killed him, but...
No, but
he's telling Anakin that,
he
the
beat
story
death.
of Darth Plagueis.
He figured out how to beat death, but he couldn't succeed.
He couldn't save himself, yeah.
That's what a lot of people think so far. Like, the internet is a buzz.
But the thing is the Darth Plagueis novel actually places his race as a mun, or immune, I don't know how you pronounce it, which is not whatever that was that we saw.
In the new books or the non-canon books?
Well, Darth Plagueis came out and kind of goes under Legends, but Tarkin is a book that's considered canon. In there, it does reference Plagueis in the events in the book, so they've
As
kind
a different
of
race than what you saw in Force Awakens?
Yeah, they still kept that he was immune and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they kind of just said, yeah, that's the story basically that happened. So they've kind of canonized it.
Yeah.
Even though the book fell in.
And it could very well not be Plagueis, but...
Or it could, and they'll just be like, maybe, I don't know, it's hard to tell. There's something that happened because he's all fucked up.
Yeah.
So he looks like he took a beating in a brawl.
He did.
So...
Yeah.
The music. I always knew there was going to be...
The score, yeah.
There's always seeming to be some kind of a musical number in the trilogies. Because you had...
Everyone has their own theme, I like.
That was nice. But no, I'm talking about, in-scene source music. So, the Cantina.
Oh, yeah.
Or, Jedi Rocks.
Yeah.
What did you think about the music that they played at Maz's place?
I can't even remember it.
Really?
I never had an opinion. I don't remember it.
It really felt
Was
like
it bad?
No, actually, no, it wasn't. It's a little weird, and not in a we're gonna make this sound really weird kind of way. It sounded kind of like okay, because you had the Cantina scene. That was kind of like jazz, music, but it was kind of done in this weird to make it sound like it's alien music.
Yeah.
And then it was more pop rock kind of thing with the Jedi Rocks thing in the special editions.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, this one kind of felt to me more like a country western.
Yeah, I don't remember it at all.
It felt
I gotta watch it again.
Kind of like it. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe it's just like I just took it. But when I first heard that, I was like, oh, it kind of sounds like it's a country western bar kind of thing.
Weird.
Which makes sense for
Sure.
it being an outpost and being kind of out there.
Mm-hmm.
That was disappointing too, by the way. In the teaser, you see the Mandalorian flag.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, ooh, maybe they're gonna see the Mandalorians or something, and no, that's just her place. And
yeah, she has the flag of everybody though.
yeah,
It
she
makes
has all
sense.
sorts of flags.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Ooh, another thing, I don't know if you noticed, when the stormtroopers miss, they've done it in a way that makes sense for how they miss. So it's not obvious that they're just shitty shots.
Oh, okay. What did they do?
It's just they had explosions going on that would make more sense, because if you're on a battlefield, and you're firing, shit's exploding. Like it's
Yeah.
going to affect your aim and stuff like that.
Okay.
I noticed that they were kind of using squad tactics,
Mm-hmm.
which is not something we saw in previous.
Yeah, that's true.
So it was kind of like they were, I guess, like more of a threat.
Yeah.
Like they were more of a credible threat than the stormtroopers in the original.
I
And of course,
agree.
part of that's going to be because it's modern filmmaking, and
Did you see the blank-faced stormtroopers in the background of one scene? There was an interior scene in a space in outer space on a shuttle, and I think it might have been the Kylo's planet or whatever, but there were like blank-faced stormtroopers. Like they had this flat face, and then it kind of came out.
Yeah, and
What
then
are
they
those?
just had a slit.
I didn't even. No, there wasn't even a slit, or maybe there was a slit.
No, there was a slit. There's
I gotta rewatch
kind of.
it. But me and Becca were like, "What's up with those blank faces?"
That's the new version of the snow stormtroopers.
Okay.
Which, by the way, that damn planet weapon, Starkiller base. How the fuck is that an actual planet? And they managed to turn it into like a
Hollow it
quasi
out.
Death Star.
Hollowed it out.
But if you hollow out a planet, you're gonna destabilize it. The Force. I'm just gonna say it's the Force.
That's not how the Force works.
Which was awesome.
And then he goes, everyone was laughing, so I don't know if anyone heard it, because everyone was laughing at that, but then Chewie goes, "Brah," and he's like, "Oh, you're cold."
Yes, I heard that. Oh, I love it. This is such a stupid little thing.
We'll use the Force.
But it was something that I felt really paid attention to detail. So they come in, Han gets rid of his snow jacket, which I imagine is probably warm in there. So he gets rid of the snow jacket. They go in, do their thing. As they're going, like Chewbacca actually picks it up, hands it to him, and like kind of to him, like, "Hey, you gotta put this on because it's cold out there."
Yeah.
Like I'm like, all right, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Oh,
Really
finally
good.
seeing the bowcaster, the Wookiee bowcaster used was awesome.
And Han uses it, and he's like,
Yes.
"I like this thing."
But now here's where I got a problem with that.
Okay.
Okay.
You got a problem with everything.
Well, no, it's just like little things that like are just like,
It's not canon.
yes, I can. He's been with Chewbacca how long? And that's Chewbacca's weapon of choice is a Wookiee bowcaster.
And he never used it before.
How did he not figure out it was a cool, cool
I
weapon?
don't think he just ever. I don't know. Yeah, that's weird.
I'm nitpicking at this point. Like, I kind of feel like I'm an asshole at this point because it's just such small little things that just.
It's a good thing.
But
It's
yes,
really a good. There's nothing like, man, they just lost it right there. Like it's not. It's stupid stuff. It's
it is.
Like,
It's incredibly stupid stuff.
it's a really,
And it's just-
really good
It's just the
movie.
nerd in me coming out. Like,
Yep.
You didn't have the.
Yeah.
You didn't have the right number of, like, decals on the
Yeah.
whatever it
For-
happens to be. So.
So Phasma's useless. Kylo is a dick. Rey is amazing. Poe is amazing. Finn getting his name is amazing
Yes.
because he's just a number and Poe gives him the name.
I'm not gonna call you
I'm not gonna
that.
call you that.
That whole interplay
So
between
good.
the two of them was just like so incredible.
Yeah. Even at the beginning with Poe and Kylo, he's like, "So you gonna talk first? Am I gonna talk first?"
Yes.
Like
I
that's
don't know how this works.
that's what you're going for. Like, I'm for it. I'm all for it.
Right.
It's like I can't really tell. Can't really hear you because of the mask thing.
So I feel like he's kind of where Kylo's kind of the Darth Vader,
Esque.
kind of archetype for this movie. Like Poe is more like the Han Solo archetype.
Saw something
But-
online, where
Uh-huh.
he's like Luke and Han all together.
Yeah, and so, but that's the thing, and this is why I think ultimately that they did it in the right way.
Mhm.
You have enough callback to the original trilogy, so you're basically tapping into those things that we all love, and you're kind of bringing that with us. You're bridging that gap between the old and the new. You're transitioning us to the new, so that going forward, you don't have to worry about these other characters. While it does feel a lot like almost like a remake of like A New Hope,
New Hope.
and Empire Strikes Back, like that they had to come out with something that says, look, we're not going to screw this up.
Yep.
You have to have faith.
Yep.
So I really expect that as we get further down the line with their every year Star Wars movie,
Yep.
it's probably going to expand into other areas and they're going to take chances.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Rogue One is a heist movie, essentially.
Yeah.
Because they're going to find the Death Star plans. But
Which is a story I am very interested in hearing.
me too. And I hope that means that Darth Vader comes back. Because
That'd be crazy.
I love that character.
I know.
But
So, does it rank? Where does it rank in your Star Wars?
if I were to rank it, Empire Strikes Back is still my favorite movie out of all of them. So I'd probably put it probably Empire Strikes Back.
So
and
you
then
go
A New Hope.
5, 6, 4.
Well, I'd go 5, 4, 7.
Better
then
than
6. Yeah, I think it was better than Jedi. Well, Jedi has the problem, like, there's like 40 minutes or something in that movie where nothing's really happening.
In Jedi?
In Jedi, yeah. Which, of course, this harkens back to a time when you slowly built,
Right.
you know, not like today's filmmaking where it's like, bam, it's got to be here, don't worry about asking questions. But there was nothing in any of that I could just pull out and be like, that's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Ewoks.
Yeah.
You know, I know that they were going to eat the heroes and stuff. That gives me a little bit more respect for them. But I'm still...
They're guerrilla war.
Well, yeah, but, you know.
It's whatever. I agree. I think it's a perfect... A New Hope set up one of the best movies of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Force Awakens is a base, and it's a great movie, great excitement, great setup.
Oh, yeah.
And then, just like, you know, A New Hope and Empire had different directors,
Mm-hmm.
different screenwriters, and it felt different, but it was still a Star Wars movie, and
Right.
you know, we're gonna get a different director next time, and
I just don't want them to do, like...
I hope it doesn't, like this was A New Hope spiritually through the whole out. If they do Empire spiritually and then just kind of throw extra, like, you got to take a bigger risk now.
Yes.
Like, now we trust you.
And that's where I'm at. It's like, you've got our trust now. Go for it.
Yep. Do something. And to be honest, there is stuff in this one where they killed Han Solo. I mean,
Which is pretty
you're
ballsy.
clearly not fucking around.
Right.
And now no one's safe. Now you killed Han Solo. Now anybody can die. And
Yeah, once they killed Han Solo, and then, like, I was like, well, there goes Finn. Finn's not going to last. And then, like, but he was at the end where it's like,
yeah,
in a coma or whatever.
yeah,
So
whatever.
you're not even guaranteed to get Finn for
I thought that was
5 minutes in the first, in the next film. So
Yeah. You know, it was really stupid how he was like, I'm leaving this planet, and she's like, where are you going? And he's like, I'm leaving. And she's like, don't go. And he's like, yeah, I'm going. And then shit goes down, and she gets taken away, and he's like, no, I need to save you. And it's like, you were just about to leave.
Right?
Like, why do you all of a sudden care?
Yeah, I kind of felt
It was
like that
really, like,
truncated is
inconsistent, yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
Like, not enough lead for him to struggle with that.
Yeah.
Um,
Some people had problem with... So the biggest complaints I think people are getting is, like, it's too A New Hope, which is whatever. There's not enough lightsaber fights, and it's too J.J. Abrams. And I don't think any of those things are... They're either just complete bullshit or not even a big deal.
Well, here's what I think about those. First of all, it's not too J.J. Abrams because there wasn't 150 billion lens
Light
flares.
Yeah.
There were lens flares, but where they were made total sense for what you were
I
saying.
think he directed the shit out
and
of it.
they did not. They didn't overdo it.
Yep.
As far as the lightsaber battles, look, you're at a point in Star Wars history where everybody thinks that that all this just never happened.
Yep.
You know, and so you aren't going to have the type of lightsaber battles that you saw in the prequels. And so what we got, I felt, was pretty representative for the time frame
Yep.
in which it is. Now, you know, if down the line they finally get Luke to set up his Jedi, another Jedi Order.
Dude, next movie, he's gonna lightsaber the shit out of the place. You know it.
Think so?
I do. And
I
he's
don't
not
think
gonna
we're
be
see lightsabers.
in the next movie.
No, well, there'll be lightsabers. I don't think
there's-
there'll ever be a Star Wars movie without a lightsaber.
No, but I mean like.
I mean, even if you go Rogue One, if Darth Vader's in it,
Yeah.
even if he doesn't light up the lightsaber, it's still there.
I mean, he's like, there's going to be more lightsaber scenes in the next movie.
Possibly. I actually don't see. Now, this is what I'm going to call for Luke. Is I think they will show that his mastery of the Force is such that he doesn't have to rely on lightsaber.
So he's got the lightning out of the hands now?
No. I don't think he. I mean, I'd be surprised if they did that. But I mean, his ability to, like, manipulate, the area, throw things, whatever. Like, I don't think, like, his. I mean, it'd be cool to see Luke Skywalker whip out a lightsaber and go to town.
He's old.
But yeah, that's the thing. The actor himself is kind of old, and it's like.
And we're not going to pull another Yoda where he limps up and then jumps across.
Yeah. So
good. It was good.
It was good.
I'm very happy.
So
with it.
happy with it. Yeah. This is really. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to see it as soon as possible. Is it's like pulling the Band-Aid off. Is this thing gonna suck or is it gonna be good? I want to know now, and because for me it really was kind of a make or break thing. As much as I like Star Wars, like I couldn't go through another Phantom Menace. So if that's where they were taking it, I was just gonna be like, well. I've always got the original trilogy.
Yeah.
So, but no, my faith is totally renewed. I'm totally happy with it.
Me too.
And I cannot wait. And like I wanted Episode 8 right then.
Yeah.
Like, don't give it to me in 2 years.
I know.
Give it to me now. Don't leave me with this. But
yeah. They're going in a very good direction.
Absolutely agree. But like you said earlier, they do need to branch out and take some risks.
Yep.
Oh, I'll tell you what was cool though. Admiral Akbar was in it.
Good.
And Nien Nunn, the co-pilot for Lando, he was in there. That was cool. And they even aged him a little bit, which is cool.
I want to say that's who Simon Pegg was. He's
No.
either
He was one of the
Akbar
aliens
or...
on Jakku.
Oh, okay.
I only know that because when they showed a picture without the head on,
Yeah, that's what I was trying to recall.
it looked all kind of natty and janky. So, what's up with those rations?
What are rations?
She
Oh,
turned
rations.
into the junk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rations. Yeah. So she just stirs it, and all of a sudden out comes out like this weird
I'm into it.
fungus muffin. It's kind of like
It is a fungus muffin. I'm into it.
like
though.
on the one hand, I'm like,
Yeah, dude.
but
you
on the
just
other
stir it
hand,
with
I'm like,
water.
there's that part of me. It's like, I want some.
Yeah.
That's
It was
fucking
good.
Star Wars food.
Yeah.
Hook me up. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want
That
Yoda on
effect was
grapes.
really
Give me
good.
that.
Yeah.
Like, just make that shit up. So.
Yeah. Again, if you can stop bolts in the middle, like if that's the physics, then you can make muffins out of water. You know?
Well, yeah. Well, but I'll totally buy that because you have the powdered mixes and stuff.
Yeah.
So that
No baking. I wonder if it was warm. It's probably cold. Like the muffin. Do you think it was warm or cold?
I thought that it was just like warm water that she put in there. And
So does that probably keeps the muffin warm then?
Well, that's probably what bakes the whatever that shit is she put in there.
Yeah.
Like the
And then it like instant
spores
rises.
or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Her eating outside of the AT-AT too. That was so cool.
that was cool.
Like they just pan out and you're just, oh shit.
I you know what? I want an AT&T an AT-AT that works because I don't want it laying on the ground all fucked up. But if I can't have that, I would love a house that was just like the AT-AT.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Anything else?
Yeah, one last thing, which was also a nice touch. When they're flying over the desert and they get shot down, the TIE fighters, like you saw those little scavengers immediately just come out of the woodwork and start going through the stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's a level of detail. I don't know. I was totally happy with it.
Me too. Really excited.
So,
What did you think? Let us know. Comment, like, subscribe, share with your friends, and go see Star Wars as many times as you can because it's worth it. Until next time, I'm Aaron. This is Rick.
I'm Rick, and if you don't like the new movie, you're wrong.
You're
I'm
wrong.
just gonna say that.
Goodbye.